So I will turn it over to our first candidate, Corey Robinson.
Hello all. First, thank you for hosting this event. Thank you for the work you've been doing in the community, the entire group. Welcome everybody. My name is Corey Robinson. I'm running for Centerville District 2, City Council seat. Excuse me. I growing up, my background, Irish and Black descent, mother and father, father's Black, mother's Irish. Worked for the city of Lowell my whole life, pretty much 15 years. Then I've been in Tingsboro the past 2. Also, I got involved in the union. I believe I was the first minority labor leader in AFSCME 1705 in the city of Lowell. I'm very familiar with the uphill battle we've been dealing with collectively with the city when it comes to diversity. There wasn't many that looked anything like any of us, I can tell you, in the workforce for the most part, just a handful. And when you started looking up above into mid-management and above that, it was less and less. And, you know, all of us have walked the halls of City Hall. Take a look at the pictures on the wall. I mean, it's not too reflective of our community, I'd say. So diversity, equity, inclusion isn't really something I can honestly say I've sat back and thought about throughout my life. I just felt like, you know, I anticipated and expected the bar would be raised higher. And so I kind of kept my head down and you know, by no means do I mean took any kind of criticism. I mean, I pushed back every opportunity I got. But at the same time, I just figured, you know, if this is the game that they set up, then I would prepare myself with the skills and the tools needed to kind of prove them wrong. And I think that mentality allowed me, you know, to power through a lot of the BS, especially without a strong supporting cast in the role that I was in. Luckily, I bonded with people over other issues, the employment-based issues and conditions of life and those kind of things, conditions of employment, I should say. Those were like the glue that kept the team that I functioned with within the city's realms together. But when it came to matters of diversity and inclusion, again, where the city recruits from, those inner circles or those political circles, they're not diverse at all. And I think that's the underlying root. Those circles are just passed down repeatedly over and over. And so as a result of that, it kind of keeps anybody that might have a solid skill set or bring something very valuable for the community or to the city outside. And I mean, I think, again, I've said it right along since I first announced, I can't thank the litigants and DEI enough for kicking that door down, because that's what allowed a candidate such as myself to step up and really make a solid run. And I think we have others now that have joined. And again, take a look around. That change is coming. It's slowly but surely coming, and we just have to really keep working. And I'm noticing even in the campaign, realistically, the bar is set higher for a lot of candidates if you're not part of that inner circle. But you know what? That's great, because I chalk that up as one, if you are successful in this race and you overcome all those obstacles, I mean, you're gonna get and develop a skill set and a way to function within this brand new system that you can't read or buy, or no one can hand you those tools. So I mean, I'm enjoying every minute of it. I mean, I'm sure many can speak to the same thing. Realistically, keep pushing, because you are going to be doubted. You are going to be held to a different standard when it comes to everything from how you carry yourself in public, to how you speak, to comments you make on social media, to people double checking and triple checking your OCPF. But hey, just keep it on the up and up, and anything me or my campaign can do to give you advice or pointers or tips along the way, please feel free to reach out.
Great. Thank you, Corey.
You're welcome.
So I'm just going to take a minute to go over, for those who aren't familiar, in 2020, Racism is a Public Health Crisis was a letter sent from members of the community to the city leaders, the city manager, the city council, the school committee, essentially calling on the city to dismantle systemic racism, but to address racism as a public health crisis in its various forms. And put very simply, it lays out 5 steps, right? One is to articulate the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion for the city, to establish protocols for data and reporting that makes it transparent and consistent so that we know where we are and where we need to go, to mandate biannual anti-racism training for all city employees, to establish an independent citizens advisory council to work with the police, and to reallocate resources and establish an Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And there has been some headway on some of these things, particularly step number 5. But we would love to hear your thoughts on this letter and initiatives, things that have and haven't happened in the city around these issues.
Sure. So basically, I definitely agree. The fact that DEI is a core value, not just for local government, but it's also a core value to our community, period, as a whole. City of Lowell, and we even go beyond City of Lowell. I mean, pretty much a lot of the surrounding communities, not directly abutting, but I mean, in this general area, the closer you get out to Boston, I mean, you have Lowell, Lawrence, Haverhill, Methuen, very similar makeups, a little bit more, I think, Spanish in certain sections, but outside of that, they have similar issues as we're facing in Lowell today. I really, as far as the second part, number 2, I think what kills a lot of areas of local government in Lowell is we really need to look to develop the tools and provide the tools to have a tangible, real deal, very, very robust set of metrics that we can measure all areas of local government, from looking at diversity, equity, and inclusion to instead of it just being a popularity contest when you're looking for performance evaluations for management. Any walk of local government, I really think we need to implement a system that can give us accurate, real-time, like micro level metrics. So now it's tough to decide where to go if you don't know where you are. The third part of that, I definitely agree with mandating trainings for all local government from the top down. Anyone that's gonna function or work in local government, and I would liken that to, it's kind of like if you work in municipal government and you're gonna be involved in purchasing, then you should also be required for mass procurement laws. It's no different. I mean, you're dealing with people's lives, you're dealing with community, you're dealing with culture, you're dealing with races, religions, creeds, sexes, genders, you name it. And you should have some kind of training to be able to effectively move those pieces around and be mindful of all the elements that go into that. I mean, we've been doing it blind, and if nothing else, just because it's been done wrong for so long doesn't make it right. And I think the people that are resisting this kind of change or these kind of programs that are being brought to the table, either they're lazy or they're afraid to change themselves. But eventually they're not gonna have an option. So I think we just need to keep working towards it, having the conversations, bringing it to light every chance we get in a respectful way, and also showing other areas that have done this and the positive outcomes that ended up as a result of doing this. The fourth section, I love the idea of establishing independent boards, not just around diversity, equity, inclusion. I think we need to start. I mean, I've discussed this many times with neighbors and people at the doors and in my campaign. Now that we changed this whole format and gave districts a voice, I think we need to start really breaking it down and giving districts these miniature boards as well that can kind of advise some of the governing bodies, but it really makes more sense. Breaking things down on a micro level is gonna allow people to roll up their sleeves and get finely detailed. And again, that plays into the set of metrics. I mean, you'll have an ear to the street, so to say, in each district that can kind of, because again, certain sections of the acre, their community is going to look different than a section in Upper Highlands or in Pawtucketville. But if we have representatives and we have independent boards from those areas comprised of those people, now you're getting accurate feedback. The fifth one, that's the only one that I like the idea of it. I have two concerns. One is the way it's written. I've been reading a lot about that. Private industry has gone that way, and it seems like there's kind of a shift. Instead of creating a department, it's more so making sure the human resource director is very, very well trained, and that whole office and department is very, very well trained, instead of adding and adding and adding and throwing money at a problem. And you'll hear me speak about that often. I don't believe in throwing money to correct the problem. I'd rather get to the core of that problem. And what it sounds like to me is our human resource department is the problem. And I think we really need to look at that whole department and A, provide whatever training is necessary, B, provide whatever staffing is necessary, and kind of burn it down and rebuild it, because that's the only way you're going to be able to implement. Human resources function should be, and I remember when I first worked for the city, it's for the employees, but that position isn't utilized in that manner in the city of Lowell, at least. It's utilized as a extended arm of the manager's office or the legal department, or they do the odds and ends out of those departments. But at the core of that job title and that job description should be exactly what it says: human resources. And again, it goes back to the point I made earlier. If you don't know about humans, then how can you be a resource for them? Another issue I had with that, though, number 5, was the creation of these positions. I thought it through, because I've worked in the city long enough to understand the way that flow chart works. I think that position would be a lot more impactful if it was one of the few positions that reported directly to the city council, independent of the city manager's office or any of these others. Because if they report to the mayor and the city manager, unfortunately, our mayor is a ribbon cutting position. It's ceremonial. And then the city manager's position is, that's the end all be all for the most part on job hirings and direction of the city, which that's what we hire for. So I think if you were going to have a chief diversity officer, or even change the title of a human resource director and incorporate the two for cost savings and effectiveness, have that person report directly to the council. Because now you're going to have 11 counselors, independent thinkers from different walks of life, that are going to be able to pull that information and get those reports and that up-to-date information directly from that chief diversity officer / human resource director. I mean, that would just be the only suggestion I would see. But as far as diversity, equity, and inclusion goes, I mean, I don't really think that's something, most of us have to really even think about. I think these discussions and these thoughts and these letters that we had to craft, it's something we had to do to explain to others, as opposed to internally. I think we're all pretty well aware of the battles that we've had probably since day one with this. But again, you get used to it. You learn the skill set you need to really power through. And I think we have some strong independent thinkers and people in the community that are saying enough's enough, and it's time we bring on change.
Thank you, Corey. Thank you so much. I think those are excellent points. So let's turn to our first question. Our first question from Wynn Flint. For Corey, how did leading a city union help you to understand how City Hall runs?
Again, it's similar to a city council position, because as a union president, for the most part, people aren't really calling you or contacting you unless there's an issue. I mean, realistically, a lot of times it's an issue. And so in order for me to be effective at advocating for the members or my colleagues that had an issue, whatever it may be throughout the city, now I had to go sit down, deal with the administration, and basically work through all of this. So you take you take someone such as myself, a minority union president, and I was in the workforce. That's a difficult mix out the gate to sit down at a table, and there was over 8 years of sitting down at a table where it would be me and maybe the recording secretary, and we have a laundry list of issues that the city would just stall out on, and I'd be up against the city solicitors, the city managers, their assistants. They'd bring in a team of 9 people and try to shoot me down and say, oh, this isn't true, or and so that prepared me. I had to learn to make sure I did my homework thoroughly. I also had to pretty much go over and over any kind of angle that they would try to throw at me to discredit these issues. So and I had great success at it. So by the time I got to the table, anything they could throw at me, I was very well prepared. And I would liken that to, it's just like knocking doors. When you get out there and start meeting your neighbors, any questions that you're gonna face for the most part in debates or interviews or any of this stuff, these are conversations I've had with my neighbors. And so in order to function within that realm as first a labor president, second an employee, and then third, obviously a minority employee labor president, they weren't too happy to see me coming because I didn't take no for an answer. And I always questioned why we couldn't do something and then if they told me they couldn't do something, I do my own homework to come back and show them not only could we do something, but this is exactly how we're gonna do something. And again, I was very successful for advocating, and that's why I kept getting elected by my peers. So I'm thankful for the opportunity to develop that skill set and advocating in that cruel environment, if so to say. But I think now the environment's changing, and it's like the one hand on a pole that's the fingers are slowly slipping, and you're seeing people cling on for power, but it's only a matter of time.
Great. Thank you so much, Corey. Our next question is from Yunju Choi. How do you rate the city's performance managing the COVID crisis? And is there anything the city could have done more for BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, people of color, and low-income communities?
Great question. Thank you. I think the city, I wasn't thrilled, to be honest. I'm going to be honest. I wasn't thrilled on what the city did. I'm thrilled at what the nonprofits and the community members stepped up and did. I myself got vaccinated. I chose to. The senior center, I get to the senior center for my first shot. Who did I see down there? Tooch Vin. Second time I go back, who do I see there again? Tooch. Like, members of our community stepped up. Lowell Community Health Center, CBA. I mean, if it wasn't for all the nonprofits and the members of the community, we would have been in big trouble. I frequently am in contact with the employees of the city still that I represented. They still had them working continuously, regular 5 days a week, because they were classified as essential personnel, which I understand, but they still had them 2 to a truck. They didn't offer them any shots. I mean, anything above and beyond. The guy downtown manager I'm really good friends with, drives the vacuum. They didn't provide them with really minimal masks. Like, I mean, I think they handed them 3 N95s throughout from start to finish, which you could only imagine. I mean, I think that it caught a lot of people with their pants down, so to say, and they didn't know how to respond. So they kind of played the back and allowed nonprofits and others to step forward and do what they knew they had to do. And some of the nonprofits didn't even know what they had to do, but they knew they had to do something. And I commend them for that. Second part of that question, could they have done more for BIPOC and low income? Absolutely. There's no reason we have the cool bus, we have different, I don't care if the city had to rent a yellow bus and convert it over. They should have been out doing outreach opportunity in every community. There's 8 districts. We needed 8 vehicles then to go out, promote, station that bus or whatever vehicle you're using, and offer the people that might not have the means to get to their designated location a vaccination shot or opportunity. I mean, these are the things that if they were in touch with what the community truly is, wouldn't you think that they would have made every effort possible to go to where the people are instead of the people being forced to go to where they say? And so that goes to show you. And I'm not pointing fingers and blaming any one person in particular, but I think we can all learn from this mistake and these failures and be a lot more mindful And I think we need an action preparedness moving forward that should be solid enough that it's signed off by 11 councilors come January.
Thank you so much, Corey. Our next question is from Mona Tyree. Corey, sorry. When elected, would you still be walking in neighborhoods in your area and talking to the community?
Absolutely. Before, during, and after. I mean, that's me. I don't, you know, I don't like to sit still. I mean, I still want to do neighborhood cleanup stuff. I still want, nothing changes. If anything, I think I need to do more of that so I can stay in tune with my neighborhood. I think I need to do more of that because I want people to say, hey, stop me in the grocery store and have a 10-minute conversation if there's something bothering them, or call my phone, or come knock on my door. I'm completely accessible. I'm completely transparent. And I've always been like that. I mean, if you mention or speak to any of the employees from City of Lowell, I go back to that. 230 members, and I had third shift people. I answered the phone at 1:30 in the morning if I had to, because I knew I had an employee and something was going on. So it's just that's part of it. I mean, if you have to make yourself accessible at all times, and I never want to lose touch with my community. It's impossible to lose touch with the community because I'm in the community. Like, unless you pack up your bags and go elsewhere, there's no way I'm going anywhere. Win, lose, or draw, I'm still going to be in the community.
Thank you. The next question is from Stephen Malagodi, and I think this is a question that's on a lot of our minds. With the eviction moratorium due to expire, what should the city do to prepare for an increase in homelessness?
I think we need to start looking at, emergency temporary housing situations with some of the buildings that might be available and some of the money that might be available, just to kind of convert over, whether it's cots with dividers, whatever we can do and whatever we have to do. With winter coming and this moratorium expiring, I mean, we're gonna have to at least make a decision, get people situated somewhat, not a permanent thing, but at least kind of ease that, and then really wrap our heads around what's the next step. But in the meantime, we can't leave people out on the streets, and winter's coming. The clock's ticking.
Great, thank you. The next question is from Rosa Pais. Hi, Corey. What are you hoping to achieve during your time as a city councilor for the Centerville area?
Great question. Rosa, not just the Centerville area. I mean, honestly, Centerville is where I live, and that's my focus as far as my council run. But I think some of the issues we have in Centerville are echoed citywide. Number one thing that's huge to me is neighborhood services, constituent services. We need to get this under control, from trash pickup, snow and ice removal, from maintenance of our public spaces to infrastructure such as catch basins, sewerage, utility like electric, street lights. I mean, the list goes on. Enough's enough in every part of the city for the most part. So that's a huge piece of what I want to do, because I'm not coming with general ideas on this. This is what I've done for 17 years, provided neighborhood services. I was the person that's marking the crosswalks. I'm the person that's fixing catch basins. I'm the person that's used bobcats to clear walkways and plow the streets at night while everyone's sleeping, so police, ambulance, and fire can get out to respond to calls. Like, I've done this. I have real life, real world experience, and I've worked within that system. I've negotiated conditions of employment and job descriptions within that system. So I know it like the back of my hand. And that's what drives me crazy, is I know the tweaks that are needed to improve on that piece alone. And I know how we can make those tweaks. And again, it's not throwing money at the problem. It's readjusting what we have already. A second thing would be, you asked for 3. That's one. My second one would definitely be, I think we need to really work towards children. I really am a huge proponent of police athletic leagues, public safety athletic leagues, and foot patrols regularly, and bike patrols. You need to get the police to come to where the community is, and not in an infringing way or a harassing way, more so you can become familiar. So people can get a little bit more comfortable with seeing that at their homes or walking by their homes, and let the natural progression of conversation happen as needs to be. But I would never advocate to allow or force people to go to where the police are, because I know my community. That's not something I would feel comfortable doing, and I wouldn't expect others to do. I think that the police have been making strides. I do give them a little bit of credit with that, but I think we still have a lot of work to do. And I think, speaking to some of the younger officers that I know through sports, they seem like there's a real interest too to break down those barriers, because I know one young officer, he happens to be white. He grew up on Cross Street. I mean, in the middle of Asian, Spanish, he's huge on police athletic leagues and stuff like that. These are the people that I'm talking about. These are the people that we need to key in on. And these are the people that are more than willing to show the community that they care, genuinely care. And you can't let a dozen bad apples spoil the last two that are left. So I think we really need to, we have a lot of work to do ahead of us. And I think those are two, public safety and neighborhood services. And there's plenty more. So thank you for that question, Rosa.
I want to thank both Justin and Corey for participating today. We will be returning on Monday, September 13th, with a South Lowell spotlight with Susie Inchun, who is running for a school committee in South Lowell, and Tooch Van, who is running for city council in South Lowell. So be well and wear your masks, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Have a good night.